Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations That Count. It's a production of Fairfax GOP. The goal of these conversations is to introduce the candidates, get their perspective on the real issues facing our Commonwealth. If you would like us to ask any questions to our candidate today, please put them in the Facebook live chat and we will try to get to as many as we can. This week, we have Mr. Glenn Youngkin that's running for election for Governor of Virginia. Mr. Youngkin is a former co-chief executive officer of the Carvel Group. Over the course of his nearly 25 years at this organization, Mr. Youngkin has served in a variety of roles, including President, Chief Operating Officer, Interim Principal Financial Officer, and Global Head of the Industrial Segment. Mr. Youngkin currently serves on several non-profit governing boards, including the Board of Governors of the National Cathedral School, the Board of Directors of the Rice Management Company, and the vestry of Holy Trinity Church. I am very happy to see Mr. Glenn Youngkin again. Glenn and his beautiful wife, Suzanne, has 4 children, and they all live in Northern Virginia currently. To further this discussion, I would like to bring my co-host, Vincent Palathingal, onto the screen. As you all know by now, Vincent is a passionate conservative leader that's passionately working behind the scenes to ensure minority and immigrant voters vote Republican. Vincent, that being said, you can take on from here.
Well, thank you, Stilega, for that generous introduction. And thank you, Glenn, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Right now, the pandemic times, things are going really crazy. Economic devastation, both in short and long term. We saw massive layoffs in hospitality. So let me start with, the question regarding this pandemic. We hear some generic answers from candidates about how to deal with this once you are the governor in November. But as a businessman yourself, as a very successful businessman, I just wanted to know whether you have any specific policy plans in place, for an accelerated way we can get out of this mess.
Yes, Vincent. So first of all, Shrulika, thank you so much for the kind introduction. And Vincent, thank you for having me. And it's so much fun to be here with my friends in Fairfax County. Of course, this is my home GOP unit. And so thank you for letting me be part of this great conversation. And yes, boy, have we seen just an amazing period of time over the last year. And this is why I'm running, Vincent. This is why I'm running for governor. Last summer, I got up out of my chair and I had had a long day at work, Zoom calls, and I grabbed my lovely wife, Suzanne, and we went for a walk. And I said, I am absolutely in a cataclysmic moment about what's happening to our beloved Commonwealth. I'm a homegrown Virginian, and I couldn't believe where we are, Vincent. I couldn't believe where we are. We're actually watching our state suffer from an economic collapse, from a healthcare collapse, from a leadership collapse. And I had a choice. I was either going to do something about it or complain from the sidelines. And I told Suzanne I was going to quit my job and run for governor. Vincent, she asked me, she said, Glenn, are you having a midlife crisis? And I said, no, I am having a Virginia crisis. And we're going to go do something about it. So here we are. And so the situation you described, which is unacceptable right now, is one that as governor, I so look forward to addressing. So let me just give you a couple key points here. And there's a lot we can do, but let me just give you a few. First, we have to get Virginia open. We must get it open. Our governor right now has unnecessarily penalized Virginians by closing our schools and closing our business and creating a circumstance where 1.4 million Virginians have had to file for first-time unemployment benefits unnecessarily. So our first big step is we have to get Virginia open. And I've said many times, Virginia should be the best place in America to live and work and raise a family. The next thing we have to do is build an economy to support that. A rip-roaring economy that is underpinned by small business growth, by actually bringing businesses to Virginia who have chosen not to come, by having businesses to stop leaving Virginia, and saving our small businesses which have been closed unnecessarily by our governor in such a way that I think we will take years to recover. So first of all, businesses that have chosen to leave Virginia are leaving Virginia because it's a hard place to do business. We have to lift the regulatory burden. Just in the last few years, we watched Advanced Auto Parts leave Roanoke and move to Raleigh. We watched Norfolk Southern, I'm gonna say it again, Norfolk Southern, leave Norfolk, Virginia and move to Atlanta. We actually have not seen new businesses come in anywhere like they should unless we have given them the most amazing economic deal in the world, because Virginia has not done a good job of attracting new businesses. Samsung Electronics was making a decision about where to put a US manufacturing facility, a $17 billion investment. And they actually narrowed down their final 3 states to Arizona, Texas, and New York. They did not narrow down into Virginia. Virginia was never in the running, and as governor, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm actually going to go recruit businesses to Virginia. And then finally, our small businesses have suffered so mightily. It's the backbone of our communities and our economy. And we must lift this, we must lift the burdens of red tape and bureaucracy that have shut them down. This is critical to create a jobs engine that will provide opportunities for all Virginians. One of the things we saw during the Trump administration is that when you have a rip-roaring economy that creates more jobs than people can actually take, then everyone prospers. Everyone, it lifts up everyone. And we saw that in an amazing way during the Trump administration. And as your governor, that's the kind of job creating engine I will create. But I think there's 2 more steps. We have to get down our cost of living. While Virginia has actually had its economy stalled relative to our peer states, they've grown 3 times, 2 times, 25% faster in Maryland than us. Our cost of living has escalated much faster. And Vincent, let me tell you, this is a bad thing for Virginia families. I'm going to start with taxes. I was the very first gubernatorial candidate to sign the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. If it looks, sounds, or smells like a tax increase, I am going to veto. We have to do better. We have to do better. We actually have to reduce our taxes for Virginia families. We must reduce them. We actually have to have a go at the fees that burden so much of what we do. They're unnecessary. And finally, Vincent, the last thing we have to do is prepare Virginians to take these jobs that we're going to create. And in fact, sadly, so many Virginians last year lost their jobs, and yet preparing them to take on new jobs was pretty straightforward. My wife and I actually started a charity last summer called Virginia Ready. We started it in April, and Virginia Ready focused on finding jobs that people could take in Virginia that just required a 6 to 12 week training program at their local community college. And what I found when I called businesses across Virginia was that there were tens of thousands of jobs that were available, tens of thousands. And all you needed was a 6 to 12 week training program at a community college. And so we brought everybody together, the community colleges and employers, and said, hey, what if we incentivize people to go get those jobs? And now 2,500 Virginians have started that journey from enrolling to being in school to getting a new career and high paying jobs that come with full benefits. I mean, Vincent, this is the key to getting our economy moving, our families moving, and this is what I'll do as governor.
No, I'm really impressed with that. The last thing you said, I am aware of a lot of high-tech technology jobs, which doesn't require these 4-year degrees and stuff like that if you're giving proper training. You know, I have personally was involved in businesses like that. So I always think, you know, when I see these project proposals come from government saying that you need bachelor's degree, master's degree, and all that kind of stuff for doing some jobs that are listed, which we know as people coming from the technology can be easily done with some training, with 6 weeks, 8 weeks training. So I really want a governor, you know, who really understands that is possible. That's great. I have just a side question. I know by the time you're elected in November, maybe the pandemic-related mask mandates and stuff like that may be gone. But at the same time, I really liked the Florida model, the Governor DeSantis, who just said, you know, when all the counties were having all these mask-related penalties, that no penalties apply. Yes, we have to post signs that you need mask mandate and stuff like that. But at the same time, when it comes to penalizing people for having no mask, is it no more? So I just wanted to, you know, to listen to your philosophy. This may not apply when you are in the governor's mansion, but yes. What do you think about that kind of draconian stuff that the Democrats are putting in place in many places?
Well, what we first know is that mask mandates or not mask mandates have really had very little impact on the impact of COVID in different states. And in fact, what we know is those governors that have mandated mask mandates or have mandated the wearing of masks have had trouble themselves in complying with it. I mean, look at our own governor. So I think what is unfortunate is that these governors have believed that they could actually mandate wearing of masks, and it, for whatever reason, was going to make it easy on citizens and easy on law enforcement. In fact, has made it impossible. It's made it impossible. So no, I would not have a mask mandate. Virginians are smart. When I go to the grocery store, I wear a mask. Exactly. When I'm walking in a park by myself, I don't wear a mask. Exactly, yes. I can make that decision. And what Governor DeSantis has proven is that in Florida, people will make good decisions. The economy can be open. And in fact, and in this case, Florida residents can have the lives that they deserve. And in Virginia, we chose something very different. We unnecessarily shut our economy. We unnecessarily have shut our schools. We unnecessarily have government mandating things on our Virginian citizens that have actually hurt us. I mean, we all know our children in Virginia, because of the school closings, have suffered mightily. They've suffered academically, they've suffered emotionally, their families have suffered. Vincent, what we have seen is across the country, 2.4 million women drop out of the workforce because of the burdens that they have unnecessarily had to shoulder. We have to put a stop to these arbitrary decisions that are false choices. We can actually promote lives and livelihoods. And so, yes, I actually firmly believe that Virginians can make these decisions. Virginians will make good decisions, and it doesn't require some central place on high to mandate down what Virginians are supposed to do.
That's very reassuring. Thank you.
Mr. Youngkin, a couple of things that you mentioned about Virginia Ready project that you and Susan have undertaken. I read a lot about that project, and you also provide achievement award of $1,000, which I think is a phenomenal idea, just as a part of encouragement. And it is surely not the welfare check program like Democrats like to say it. I think it is clearly an achievement award that has put them into the next stage of their life. So I have to thank you and your dear wife for doing that to Commonwealth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now moving on to a question about law and order. You know, we are a party of law and order, Mr. Youngkin. You see what is going on right in the backyard, defund the police, riots all over the summer. Most Virginians, especially immigrants like me that feel super safe in our neighborhoods, don't feel that anymore if you see so much of rioting going on. So if you are the governor, what steps will you take to educate the public on the missteps and unproven promises of supposed progressive police reform? Will you bring in experts to our schools and county offices to re-educate our communities on this havoc these programs can create on safety?
So I don't think we can start talking about law and order and those that stand up for us without taking just a moment and recognizing Nick Winham, Officer Nick Winham, who actually died yesterday in the line of duty. It was a routine traffic stop, and he was shot and killed. And I think we just all have to stop and offer his family our just sincere condolences. Stop and pray for him, pray for his family, and just recognize the sacrifice that so many families have made in pursuit of standing up for us. And so we have to start there. We have to start there. This is such a tragedy, and yet it reminds us that when we talk about defunding our police, those law enforcement heroes that stand up for us every day, when we demonize them, when we demoralize them, it's a whole different world when we stop and recognize the tremendous sacrifice that they are willing to make every day on our behalf. This must stop. This must stop. I have a good friend in Virginia Beach, Sheriff Stolley, who runs the largest jail in Virginia. And Sheriff Stolley is having trouble filling up his police academy today. Again, when we need them most, they will not be there for us. So this is a topic that I hold very dear to my heart, that as governor, I will stand up and say, no, we are not going to stand on the sidelines and allow our police officers, our sheriffs, those in law enforcement that stand up for us be demonized and demoralized and defunded. We're going to stand up for them. We must, because otherwise they won't be there to stand up for us. And as governor, that's what I pledge. I also will tell you that the legislation that has been making its way countless times through our House of Delegates and our Senate, that has been proposed by the left, the radical left, that would actually strip protections from our police officers from civil pursuit when they are just simply fulfilling the oath that they made to stand up for us, will never pass when I'm governor. I will veto it every time. And those legislative efforts to change an assault on a police officer from a felony to a misdemeanor, again, will never pass when I'm governor. I will veto it every time. And I think this is the kind of leadership that our governor must exhibit. We must stand up so that people can understand that those that are willing to put their lives on the line, like police officer Nick Wynham, I just think that is something we absolutely have to make sure that we are consistently expressing, appreciating, teaching, so that we can, in fact, stand up for those who stand up for us.
Mr. Youngkin, thank you so much for thinking of our officer, Nick Wynham, and thank you for willing to support our law enforcement officer. I think more than anything, coming from a foreign country, I felt the safest here, and that's only because of our law enforcement officers. I tell that when I go to India, I tell something saying that, can you believe at midnight, I can just go to Walmart by myself. I could not confidently do that anywhere in this world. So supporting police officers and law enforcement officers is the most important thing for us.
Yes. And thank you so much, Glenn, about the legal assurance that you gave, that you will veto these stupid measures that they bring up all the time. The qualified immunity, that makes perfect sense to me when I started understanding this, to have that qualified immunity. So when the Democrats want to take it away, it's not logical at all. There is no common sense to this. So thank you so much, for clearly being on the side of the police officers. Now, I wanted to bring your attention to this issue of closed schools. As you know, the communities that are suffering big are the communities that have to go out to work, like those who are in construction industry, for example. So Hispanic Americans and African American communities who are into construction, they're finding it really hard to being, working from home and helping their children to be online and to be really being educated. So a lot of people like us who can work from home, technology workers, they don't see that pain. So the people who are really struggling already is being punished more by these schools, remaining closed. So what is your stand? I know by the time you are governor, maybe it's going to be open, but what is your stand from a philosophical perspective? Why we are supporting this nonsense when all the private schools, all the Catholic schools, when everything is open, why these government schools have to be shut down? Because teachers will not cooperate. I don't think it is personally teachers. It's the associations.
I don't either. Well, let's just be very clear. Schools should be open, must be open, and families must stand up, and we should continue to demand that they're open. And my friend Brandon Michon in Loudoun County has done an amazing job of being a leader. He's been a leader. He has actually asked the school boards to do their job. And if you don't want to do the job, then actually step down and let somebody else do it. We must open our schools, but we might not a few days a week or not in a hybrid model, but we need to open our schools 5 days a week. And we must give parents the choice of whether they want to send their children, as opposed to schools making that choice for parents. This is an amazing moment for all Virginians to clearly express that the liberals that have been elected to the school board systematically over the last many, many years do not represent Virginia families' interests. They do not represent the interest of our children. They actually just represent the interest of the union. And we must stop this. And so we must stop it a number of ways. One, we must just withhold funding from schools if they're not open. Full stop. 5 days a week, they must be open, and they must be open now. And I'm frustrated that the bill that has made its way through our legislative branch actually waits until next semester. Let's do it right now. Second of all, we absolutely have to stand up and recruit great people to run for school boards. We absolutely have to support those people across Virginia so that we can elect parents who represent families and students as opposed to people who represent the teachers' unions. And I think finally, we have to make real progress, and as your governor, I will, on creating charter schools in our public school systems and promoting school choice. Because what we know during the pandemic is that applications to private schools have gone through the roof. Homeschooling has increased so much that the homeschooling support networks can hardly keep up. And yet not all Virginia families can actually afford to do this. And we have to afford them the opportunity to actually not have their destiny defined by their zip code, but to allow them to choose where their children are best to go to school, what they're learning, where they go to school for the best opportunities. This is so critical to actually bringing the kind of reform that we need in our school system. And we have seen it work in states like Florida. We've seen it work in states like Indiana. Why in the world has Virginia been so hesitant, so timid to do this? This requires leadership. This requires a governor who's going to stand up and say, I serve you. I work for you, Virginians, not for the unions, not for the special interest groups, but for you, and I will get this moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I ran for school board in 2019 in Fairfax County. So I advocated for charter schools and parents having more role in deciding where their children go to school in general with their tax money. But there was a lot of resistance at that time. But I think because of COVID and because of President Trump's open support for charter schools and such initiatives, it has gained a lot of momentum. So hopefully, by the time you are in governor's mansion, that'll be the best time to push that agenda and make it happen.
And Vincent, let me jump in because we need to do this now so that it is not a lonely victory for me in November. I need conservative Republicans to be running with me. I will work from the top of the ticket in order to support conservative Republicans across the Commonwealth. So please jump in and run for these seats, run for delegate seats, run for city council seats. I will work with you. I'll knock on doors. We'll provide support. We have a campaign across Virginia that absolutely can help across all of these races. And you will have my dedicated effort to help you get elected. Folks, this is so important. We must stand up and we must participate and we must win in order to change the direction of our beloved Commonwealth. And this is where it begins, right here in February on a Saturday afternoon, where we pull together in a way we've never pulled together before in order to make a statement that no, Virginia is not blue and no, Virginia is not radical. No, Virginia is conservative. Virginia is Republican. And we're going to stand up and make our voices heard. I can't wait for this, Vincent. I cannot wait for it.
No, that's a big, powerful call to action to the conservatives, and I really like that. That's good.
And also, Mr. Youngkin, I am glad as a governor candidate, you're able to recognize the value of school board candidates and board of supervisors, city council and delegates, because unless we start running for every single position that's out there, we can't take Virginia in the right direction. So thank you for acknowledging it. And also thank you for willing to support all those candidates in whichever way you possibly can. So, Mr. Youngkin, there is a lot of chatter on Facebook about labor unions and teachers unions. So that seems to be one of those pet peeves that people would like to hear from you. So during this course of discussion, when you have an opportunity, please do tell us your opinion about what you think about labor unions and teacher unions. Mr. Youngkin, the last time I met you, I did talk to you and said that I'm a healthcare professional and I'm a very passionate healthcare professional. And I know that for sure, governors can play a big role in public health promotion. You are uniquely positioned in that position to maximize the state resources towards upstream strategies to reduce this health disparities and improve health across the lifespan. What are your thoughts on these health disparities that you currently see in our Commonwealth? And how do you think you can assist in enhancing the public health program?
This is such an important question. And it's a question that I've been talking about across my dinner table since I was very young. My mother was a nurse, and she also was eventually a nursing professor. And we discussed many, many evenings at our kitchen table the challenges that many underserved communities had in both access and quality of healthcare. And I'll say that again, it is both access and quality of healthcare. And I believe that there are a number of ways for us to address this, but let me highlight a few. First is communication and creating much better access. So my mother used to always say, one of the biggest challenges that so many women had was they didn't understand that healthcare was so important to their entire life. We need to help people understand by communication how important preventive care is, their diet, all of the things that I think people sometimes don't fully understand. But I think second of all, it's access to healthcare. And we can actually address access to healthcare and affordability of healthcare in a number of ways. Number one is we can help people get great jobs. Mm-hmm. We can actually help people get great jobs. How do we do this? Not by running jobs programs and not by coming up with false promises, but by running programs like Virginia Ready. Virginia Ready was not, as you said, Srilekha, so thank you for saying it. It was not a jobs program. It was not a handout, but there was an incentive where we actually paid people to finish their education. And therefore employers want to hire them. I heard a great story yesterday about someone who graduated from the Virginia Ready program, and that this person became a Virginia Ready scholar. And they participated in the job interview training so that they would have a great elevator speech and they would be able to advocate for themselves. And they felt confident so that when they went into their first job interview, they could express all the qualifications they had, and this person got the job offer immediately. And it was a great job offer that came with benefits, that came with a career. These jobs are available, and we have to actually make them accessible by all Virginians. I believe in a Virginia that actually provides equal opportunity, not mandated equal outcomes, equal opportunity to lift up all Virginians. But then there's a second and very important building block for us when it comes to healthcare is we must make it more affordable. Accessibility is one thing. Affordability is something else. 3 years ago, great Republican leaders in Virginia actually progressed legislation. And that legislation was going to allow small businesses to come together to form associations. And we all know in the world of competition that when you can actually have a bigger buyer, you can negotiate a better deal. I grew up with the art of the deal. These are things that I know as a 30-year business person. I know how to negotiate a good deal. And when you have a bigger organization buying healthcare, you can get lower prices, you can get better coverage, you can get better doctor networks, you can get better hospital support. And this bill was going to do that for small businesses all over Virginia that could then, in fact, offer better healthcare to their employees. And Governor Northam vetoed it. He vetoed it because he was trying to protect Obamacare. He was trying to protect a system that, in fact, doesn't work, a system that's expensive, that's unattainable by so many people in Virginia. And oh, by the way, the networks that form around it, unfortunately, are not robust because it doesn't work. So this is such an important topic for us. And we can actually provide such better support in healthcare, in opportunity, and oh, by the way, in life for so many people in Virginia by simply leaning in, recognizing that we actually have to allow competition, free enterprise, communication, targeted support in order to support those that may not have had that kind of opportunity before. This gets me so excited as I work in to become our next governor, because I think we can create a commonwealth for all, as opposed to communities that I think have actually been left out.
Mr. Youngkin, you are a son of a nurse. That tells a story. So you know it all about health disparities. One thing I tell about healthcare professionals is that's our identity. Nurses, physicians, clinical staff, that's just not a job for us. No. We identify ourselves. When I introduce myself, I say my first and last name and immediately say that I'm a healthcare professional because I feel so passionate about it. And I see the same passion in you. I'm sure your mom would have been very proud. I know she's not here, but she would have been very proud. Thank you for bringing up about affordability, accessibility, and communication. That is all it is needed to reduce the health disparities. Out of many, it is much more complex, as you stated, but I think the key is all the things that you said: accessibility, affordability, and communication. That's what is currently missing. I mean, we are seeing that in vaccine delivery. We were 50th in vaccine delivery at certain point. How is that possible in this great commonwealth?
Yep, and when I was
could I add one comment, Vincent? Do you know why it's possible? First of all, thank you for saying such a nice thing about nurses. My mother was my hero. And I love my dad, and he was my hero too, but boy, my mother was a strong woman who many times saved our family. And it just shows what families can do, but I think it's because she was a nurse. So thank you for saying that. I think the reason why we find ourselves looking at a vaccine distribution that in fact has failed Virginians, it's given teachers unions an excuse to keep schools closed. It's given our governor an excuse to artificially constrain us and restrain Virginians and businesses, is because we keep sending the same kinds of people to Richmond, people who have never run anything, people who actually just want to be a politician. I will say I am the only person in this race who has never tried to run for office before. I am a true outsider. I bring a perspective to this that nobody else can bring. I haven't tried to do this and failed. I haven't been in office for years. I don't owe anybody anything. And I think that liberates me to bring such fresh perspective. But when I look at the vaccine distribution, I can only shake my head and say, my goodness, that's what you get when you have people that have never run anything try to figure out how to do something that important. Was there a surprise? Was there a surprise that Operation Warp Speed was going to work in this public-private partnership and deliver a near miracle vaccine, multiple near miracle vaccines that are near 100% effective? And that with military-like precision, it was going to be delivered to our front door in Virginia. And yet our governor decided that he was going to launch a hotline to schedule 60 days after it landed. Now, this is actually like a Saturday Night Live skit. 60 days after it's landed, and it didn't work. It broke as soon as he turned it on. And the primary reason is that we keep sending the wrong kinds of people to Richmond. Send a different kind of person to Richmond. We need a management change in Richmond, and I can be that kind of governor for Virginia.
Yep. After watching the very business unfriendly policies of Obama administration, the failures that he had, I always thought I'm not going to vote for anybody for president and for governor who is not a businessman, because I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I know we focus on solving problems. So when we see a problem, we know how to solve the problem, not to make a statement about it. So, and I can see very clearly that as a business person, you have very well articulated your strategy on how to handle these insurance related issues from a businessman's perspective, and that is wonderful.
Thank
Now,
you.
I wanted to ask you something about your campaign specifically. If you watch you already mentioned that Virginia is not really a Democrat or a purple state, which is we are a red state, we are a conservative state. And if you watch the 2020 numbers, you see that President Trump had 30,000 more votes than the statewide Republican candidate ran for Senate. So we are a very conservative state, and these conservatives have a concern because of some controversial things that came up about your campaign, that you have contributed some money to some very liberal organizations and some candidates. So I just wanted to hear from you. This is an opportunity for you to explain to these conservative base what exactly is that we should know, and if you can explain.
Vincent, thank you for bringing up this incredibly important topic that I want to address directly. And oh, by the way, you might as well add China to the list of things that people are saying about me. So let me just start. These accusations are absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. In fact, who do you want leading Virginia when it comes to negotiating the best deals? Who do you actually want representing us in building our economy? Don't you want somebody that has actually beaten the Chinese, who understands what the Chinese are up to, that they're trying to dominate our world? And yet here I am, having stood up and beaten them to the point where President Trump actually thanked me personally at the White House in front of everyone when he launched the announcement of the China trade deal. He had enough confidence in me. Virginians can either choose to have the varsity or the JV. Do they want people that have never done anything like this before trying to figure this out, or do they actually want the varsity? Suzanne and I, when it comes to our donations, we would never donate to any of those liberal organizations, and we have never donated to any of those liberal organizations or politicians. We have supported Republican candidates year after year after year and been instrumental in supporting victories around our country. We also have supported Christian charities all over Virginia, all over our country, and all over the world. These are hugely important. And I actually believe that these false truths that are being spread about me are very much like the way that the Democrat prosecutors made things up about President Trump and trying to impeach him. They took little snippets of this and little snippets of that and changed dates. This is not what the Republican Party is right to do. This is why people hate politics. Yeah. This is why I got into this race to begin with. Facts are, I am a conservative outsider. I'm a man of faith. I'm a successful business leader. And I can win. And I actually believe this is why people are launching these things against me, because they want the job more than a Republican winning. I've seen hits also from the from the DNC, from the Democratic Governors Association, from Terry McAuliffe, more than my competitors. Terry McAuliffe does not want to run against me. Mm-hmm. Terry McAuliffe does not want to run against me, because Virginians are at this place now, Republicans are at this place now, where we are ready to come together and elect a conservative outsider to lead our state to where we know the Commonwealth needs to go. Virginia should be the best state in America to live and work and raise a family. And that's what we want. And I so look forward to doing it. And I so look forward to rising above these kinds of silly, crazy attacks that are made up. But oh, by the way, I have a friend who says, Glenn, when they're starting to attack you, it means you're winning. It means you're winning. And I actually feel that on the campaign today. We've been at this for a month. And boy, what a month it's been. A month and a day ago, no one had really known who Glenn Youngkin was. And all of a sudden today, everywhere I go, people stand up and say, Glenn, we actually share your values. You're a conservative Republican. You're an outsider. You're a successful business leader. You can win. So I so look forward in bringing together the Republican Party in a way that it has not been brought together in Virginia. Republicans in Virginia have found a very unique way to lose for 11 years in a row in every statewide race. And I think we should put a stop to this. I think we should put a stop to this and come together, and I will win in November, and I cannot wait to be your governor.
I am a big believer in the 11th commandment of President Reagan. Even the Republican Party forum that we have on Facebook, I am managing it as an administrator. So I tell people, yes, primary is a very heated time, but make sure that we don't attack each other and tear people down, because it's a time to build. I just asked this just to make sure that we are giving you an opportunity to address this, because it's all over the place anyway. So thank you for that reassurance.
Mr. Youngkin, thank you for clearing the air. I think you ended on a very high note where you said if people are starting to attack you, both within and outside, it means that you're probably they're afraid that you're going to take the top seat. So that being said, Mr. Youngkin, I ran as a board of supervisor within Fairfax County for multiple years. I have done great deal of door knocking within 10th Congressional District because that's where I live. And when I door knocked, I met thousands of suburban women. These are women just like me. I mean, I say I have two kids, both are in public schools, Fairfax County, hardworking moms, working moms, soccer moms. However, I've noticed a trend, which I'm sure none of you are surprised, that most of them are leaning Democrat, and they have been starting to vote that way. I strongly believe the driving force of Blue Wave in Virginia is all moderate suburban women. So what is your campaign strategy to bring them into our Big Ten?
This is such an important topic because Republican women are the backbone of our party. And yes, we have actually seen many women who would self-identify with Republican shared values, conservative principles, actually move away from the party. And I believe that this is rooted in the fact that politicians, when people are actually asked, receive the lowest possible grade in trustworthiness. And I don't know about women in your life, but my wife is a keen judge of character, and she holds people accountable immediately. And I believe this is something that Republican leaders have failed to engender trust, particularly in women across Virginia, particularly. As I said earlier, I think there are also so many issues that have particularly been thrust upon women. They've borne the brunt of the employment displacement, the family responsibilities, sometimes with parents, with their children during this pandemic. As I said earlier, 2.4 million women across the country have actually dropped out of the workforce. And I'll say that again, 2.4 million women have dropped out of the workforce. It's going to take years to recover from that. And so my approach to this is first to fully engage and to listen. And I believe what I'm hearing as I've been listening for quite a while now is one, we want a governor we can trust. We want a governor who we can believe will deliver what, in this case, he says he's going to do. And Glenn, we can trust you. But second of all, we absolutely have to stand up for issues that are particularly challenging to women. We talked about healthcare earlier, provision of healthcare for women. We need to actually recognize that getting our schools open has had a disproportionate impact on families with women, particularly. We need to recognize that as we build job opportunities, the majority of those opportunities could be filled by women, and we have to make sure that we have programs that are set in place to allow them to do that. Virginia Ready is a perfect example. we find that nearly 60% of the participants are women. And the reason why they're able to participate is the classes are generally held in the evenings or on the weekends, when in fact they can fully participate. They have many other demands. And so this to me is at the cornerstone of winning in Virginia. And it's not just Northern Virginia. It's Hampton Roads. It's all through Richmond. It's in the Valley. It's in Southwest Virginia. It's in Southside Virginia. This is not just a Northern Virginia issue. This is a Virginia issue. And I so look forward to engaging with women all across the Commonwealth. And we've already started. My wife launched Women for Glenn earlier this week. And we have chapters sprouting up all over Virginia. It is so encouraging. And I would encourage anyone who actually wants to engage, you can go to Women for Glenn and join us there.com, or you can actually come to our campaign website, which is youngkinforgovernor.com, and join us and join one of the many, many, many chapters of Women for Glenn across the Commonwealth. So thanks for raising this incredibly important topic. This is how we're going to win.
And Glenn, I think you hit on a high point, trust, right? Women go by trust. They have to trust the candidate. They have to trust their promises before they decide to vote. And I think one of the reasons I believe if we are able to get that trust from suburban women, the entire family will follow through. If I vote Republican, my husband has to vote Republican in my home. And I think that's how majority of the homes are. And I am very glad and thankful that Susan, your dear wife, has recognized that, and she is building this women's coalition, because that's how we get our women talking. Women to women talk is the best way to build the trust. Thank you.
Thank you. So we look forward to you joining us, and we'll actually take your coaching as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Glenn, I want to bring your attention to another major concern that these conservatives have all over the country. It's a burning issue. Millions of Americans believe that the last election was stolen from President Trump by using COVID as a cover to promote massive, fraud-prone absentee voting. And I'm one of them. I believe that there was extensive fraud. If the election rules do not go back to the pre-COVID-19 situation, I think it will be extremely hard for Republicans to win some of these high voter fraud prone districts. And even in Virginia, some believe that there was fraud. What is your opinion? What are your plans to reverse the COVID-19 related accommodations instead of them becoming permanent? How can we go back once the COVID is gone to a pre-COVID voter regulations in the state?
Vincent, this is a critically important topic, critically important. Virginians, so many Virginians have lost faith in the process and the outcome. And this is why just 2 weeks ago, I was the first candidate to actually launch a voter integrity task force to lay out a plan for how I, as your governor, will address this. This is not a Republican issue, nor is it a Democrat issue. And interestingly, both parties have been complaining for a decade. Mm-hmm. This is a democracy issue. This is a democracy issue. And we must recognize that if we do not take action, we are in fact chipping away at some of the fundamental underpinnings of this great democracy that we have. So my 5-point plan was really straightforward. It was quite common. It was filled with common sense moves. Most politicians would have a 10-point plan, a 15-point plan, or a 20-point plan. I'm not a politician. I have a 5-point plan. Pretty straightforward. We're going to move the Department of Elections out from underneath the governor's office and make it independent and transparent. This should be a non-political office, not a political office to do the bidding of the governor. Second, we have to make sure that the voter rolls are updated monthly with people who have unfortunately passed away or sadly moved away. And this is not hard, but the governor has chosen not to do this. Thirdly, people who vote should show up with a real voter ID, the real state issued ID. My son, who's 23, if he wants to go to a bar and buy a beer, he has to present a state ID. If he wants to board an airplane, then he has to actually have a state issued ID. Why in the world don't we have to have one to vote? Fourth, if you want to mail-in ballot, just prove you're a citizen. And when you mail it in, have 2 signatures on it, and let's match the signatures so that we know that they're valid. And finally, when it comes to counting the ballots, we actually need to make sure that we have poll watchers and observers that are allowed full access for both parties and certify that they are there and allowed to do the job that they are supposed to do. And the voting machine should actually be tested beforehand and audited afterwards. These aren't difficult things, but they could push Virginia into the forefront of voter integrity. Between now and the election, Vincent, we have work to do as Republicans. We have work to do. I think at the top of the list of the work we need to do is we need to recruit lots and lots of volunteers. Yeah. There will be an extended voting period, just like there was last time. We have to make sure that the polls are staffed with poll watchers. We have to make sure that the observers are there so that the custody of the ballots is appropriate. And then when they're counted, we have to be able to sign off that we at least were able to observe they were counted fairly. These are things we can do as Republicans to get fully engaged. When I was working on election day at our local high school, and my wife was at our local elementary school, we were engaged. And so I would just ask all Republicans to be engaged. This is our moment, because we're going to have to do this. This is an incredibly important topic, but I will tell you, when I'm governor, I will take fast action, make the changes I described. Finally, please join us in the Election Integrity Task Force. The more people that join us, the louder voice we will have. The louder voice we will have, the better chance we have of making change. And so I absolutely ask you, please join us at Youngkin for Governor at our Election Integrity Task Force.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We have a problem always finding Republican volunteers to staff these roles during the election. And so if you can have that pitch or to all your supporters all the time, we will be in a better shape come November. Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
Glenn, one of the things that you mentioned is a key, and I want to kind of reiterate that, is you recognize the value of ensuring that we have volunteers even during early voting period.
Yes.
I think I manage campaigns and elections for Fairfax GOP. I think we cram ourselves in the last week, not realizing that this is starting in September at this point. How are we preparing this day for September to ensure that we are right there near the election booths and stuff? So
absolutely.
Thank you for that.
And the Fairfax County GOP is the largest GOP county organization that we have. And we just need more members, and we need more people to participate. And yes, it is a shockingly long election period. And so we're going to need folks to volunteer 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times in order to make sure that we are providing the kind of participation and oversight that all of our candidates in all elections, not just the governor's race, but lieutenant governor's race, attorney general's race, our delegate races, every race that we have, we all need to band together and participate so that we can have the best shot at having a result that we can trust in. And oh, by the way, I fully expect to win. I fully expect to be governor. And as a result, we will actually put an end to this. But this year, we're going to have to come together and work twice as hard.
Mr. Youngkin, this is a loaded question, and I saved it until the end of the conversation. As you know, I mean, you lived in Northern Virginia for a while. About 60% of our Northern Virginia population is immigrants, minorities, divorced millennials, and Generation Z. You have kids of that age too. And whether we like to hear it or not, we will not win Northern Virginia without immigrants and minorities and all the people that I just mentioned. Some changes, even like minute 10% change in their voting pattern, will be one of our paths for Republican wins statewide. My question to you is, am I the only one that's acknowledging that because I'm an immigrant and I'm a woman, I see that happening? Or do you consider that as part of your path to victory? If so, if you do consider that as a path to victory, what are you doing to kind of get them into your tent?
Yes, so this is a critical path to victory to bring us into the winning team. And what's happened with the Republican outreach and Republican engagement is as if the Republican Party in Virginia hasn't noticed what's going on. And we don't have to win Northern Virginia. And by the way, I think we can. but we have to actually fully engage across all the communities in Northern Virginia, particularly the non-white community. One of the things that I've been very specific to do is to sit down with community leaders representing many of the minority groups, many of them, and listen. And what I find over and over again is if there were 10 topics that were core to conservative Republican values, we tend to agree on 9 of them or 10 of them. These are shared values. Small government is better than big government. Low regulations, low taxes, meritocracy in our schools. Our beloved Constitution needs to be protected. We all know that Virginians wrote it. Without Virginians, we wouldn't have a Bill of Rights. And so many people who have come to our country come because of that Constitution, which underpins the greatest country in America. So we have shared values that, in fact, extend across Northern Virginia, extend across all peoples in Northern Virginia, but we have to engage. So I actually sat down with a group of folks a couple of weeks ago for lunch, and it was one of many meetings like this I have had. And what was shared with me was this was the first time that a statewide candidate running for governor had visited with them since Bob McDonnell. I'm going to repeat that again. Here we are in 2021, and Governor McDonald won in 2009. We have just failed to engage. For our millennials and our Gen Zers, the biggest challenge they will state over and over again is opportunity. Our population of college grads in Virginia is actually a net exporter. Why? Because we do not offer the breadth of opportunities that other places do. Where are they going? Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Maryland. It's because our economy hasn't grown, because the jobs actually have not kept pace with our peer states, and we haven't provided the opportunity for Virginia to be the best place to live and work and raise a family. They've had to go elsewhere. We've also provided them with a major false truth. And the false truth is that's been fed to them over many, many years by the Democrat leadership is you need to go to college right now and incur $60 to $80 million $80,000 of debt and burden yourself to the point where the only thing you can do is leave Virginia and go someplace else. So there's 2 routes at this. First, we have to create an economy that has jobs that actually provide opportunities for all Virginians to lift everyone up, but particularly our young people who are leaving Virginia. Second of all, we have to help people recognize that you do not have to go immediately to a 4-year college degree. You can actually take a training program, take a 2-year degree, get a job, do a work-study program, grab an apprenticeship, go work in the IT industry, which will actually train you for a career. These are things that we have to communicate much more clearly. These are messages that so many communities across Virginia have not heard from Republicans, and yet they are shared values. And so I tell you today, as the candidate that will win our nominating process, and as the candidate that will win our statewide process, as the candidate that will win against Terry McAuliffe or wherever else the Democrats send our way, communities across Virginia will hear from me, but more importantly, I will want to hear from you. We will engage. We will bring together the Republican Party like never before. And we will make a statement in November that will absolutely redefine Virginia's future and our country's future. We will make a statement that we will win the governor's office with Glenn Youngkin at the top of the ticket, but the lieutenant governor's office, the attorney general's office, we're going to win back 6 delegate seats. And I met a gentleman yesterday running in one of Fairfax's delegate districts that I believe can win, and we're going to work together to support him to win. And we're going to win 6 delegate seats and take back our House of Delegates and put a stop to the craziness that's been going on in Richmond. But most importantly, again, the next year as your governor, as your Republican governor, I am going to work like crazy to help us win back at least 2 of our congressional seats so that we can send a majority Republican congressional delegation to Washington. And all we need is 4 other seats 4 other seats from the other 49 states. Virginia's going to do a third of the work for the rest of the country. We've been doing it from the beginning. We'll continue to do it. And we're going to take back our houses. We're going to take back our House of Representatives. And we're going to put a break. We are going to put a break to what is happening in Washington. And people are going to stand up and they're going to say, wait a minute, what happened? And what happened was Virginia stood up and made a statement that, no, we are not blue. No, we are Republicans. We are conservative Republicans, and we believe that Virginia deserves better. And as your governor, I'm going to work like crazy for you. I actually want to do the job of governor, not just take the title. I want to work for Virginians in a way that no governor has ever served Virginia, to deliver a future that is so emblematic of what Virginia should be, the best state in America to live and work and raise a family.
And when talking about immigrants, I just wanted to bring these statistics in front of you. Northern Virginia, with the 20% Asian American population, is really mad at the TJ school policies that they have made. They're removing meritocracy. They're bringing in geography-based lottery to fill up the best school in the country. So the Asian American community is really angry about it. So I just wanted to let you know that, you should actually talk about it. I mean, in terms of reaching out to that community.
Vincent, this is just a critical component of what the left is trying to do, what the Democratic leadership is trying to do. They're absolutely trying to orchestrate equal outcomes as opposed to equal opportunities.
Exactly.
Equal opportunities have been the underpinning of our country, and that's what, as our governor, I will work so hard for all Virginians. And this is what is key to our future. It's what's key to our future. And I do look forward to hearing and listening and reaching out to all of the various extremely important communities across Virginia. Thank you for having me. I did say at the beginning that one of the things that's most important in my life is my family, and particularly my lovely wife, Suzanne. We will have been married 27 years coming up soon. And I did make her a promise tonight that I would come home and we would have dinner together and we would sit across the table and discuss the things that are important in life, which is happening in so many families across Virginia. So I'm sorry to cut our conversation short, but it's been a fabulous one. I thank you so much for having me. I thank you for the work that you do, for the leadership you absolutely present for Republicans in Fairfax, for Republicans in the communities you represent, in the workplace, in the healthcare industry. We always forget that the values that we keep in our heart, the plumb line that makes us who we are, isn't something that gets checked in when we head someplace and checked out someplace else. We should carry it everywhere we go. And this is the exact same philosophy I bring to this entire race for governor. This is who I am. This is what I will do for Virginians. This is what we'll do together as we actually reestablish a new direction for Virginia. And it gets me so excited. But I want to thank the two of you for hosting today, for having me today, and for all that you do for Fairfax County Republicans.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Really appreciate that time that you're going to spend with your family. I wish you a very good time. And I request you and your campaign to promote this video from the Fairfax County website. We have hundreds of viewers today, and we will have thousands in the coming days. So
you bet. You bet. And I guess one thing, and I would be remiss in not stating it. Please join us. Please join Team Glenn. Please join our campaign. You can find us at youngkinforgovernor.com. It's YOUNGKIN for governor.com. You can also follow us on social media, and we will in fact be sharing this with everyone. And I'd love for everyone to become a delegate. This convention is going to be so much fun. We're actually going to all participate in selecting our next gubernatorial candidate, and I would invite everyone to be a delegate for Team Glenn, for Team Youngkin. Come join us, and we're going to have a great time as we pick our next gubernatorial candidate, which will be me, and then we'll all lock arms together and go win in November. So So thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank you.
Youngkin, I do want you to tell us the joke about Youngkin and Donut, our Dunkin' Donut one, before you leave, and I promise we'll let you go.
Great, thank you. So when I was in high school, I was a pretty good basketball player. I was pretty good at putting a round ball through an orange hoop, and in fact allowed me to play college basketball, which is how I ended up going to school in Texas and meeting Suzanne, which was just the greatest gift of that entire experience. And when I was in high school and actually in college, my nickname was Duncan Youngkin. And so I was on a podcast recently, and we were talking about that. And the next morning, the podcast was released, and the headline was "Virginia runs on Youngkin." And I thought that was really clever. I'm not sure what Dunkin' Brands felt, but I really appreciated the opportunity to not only recognize that I can in fact serve Virginia, and Virginia can actually benefit from my leadership. But I also just enjoyed the fact that we were having a bunch of fun.
No, that was actually fun, and thank you for spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I wish you a great evening. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.